We left off was day one elimination. Word321, who replaced Mick, has 5 votes. T-Bone, SJ Reaver, Shelly, me, and Italiano all voted to eliminate Word. So the big reveal is Word was a Mafia role blocker. This is really good news. We got a member of the Mafia. We're largely on track to win the game. If we can just discover who the other member of the Mafia was, we'll be in a good spot to that's our win condition. We win once we find out who the other member of the Mafia is. Alright, the night ends and SJ Reaver was killed. She was a Mason. This confirms that Genius Gamer and SJ Reaver were telling the truth, so that means that Genius Gamer is the other Mason, and he's going to be killed the following night. So to start off the day, I wrote out something that I'd written during the night, sort of analyzing how people acted during the previous day. I determined that I thought that Porkins, Shelly, or Mini Megabyte, that the final member of the Mafia lied within them. Italiano accuses Porkins. At this point, this doesn't look great for Porkins. Porkins looks pretty sus, especially given Porkins' emotional reaction at the end of the previous day to Word being eliminated. I also put a vote on Porkins. Reminder that in the previous day, even though we needed 5 to vote, during this day we only need 4 to eliminate. At this point, Shelly gives her elimination pool. She says that me and Italiano are a confirmed town and that she thinks that Porkins is the final member of Scum. T-Bone says that based on the night kill and based off of Shelly's play, he thinks that the final member of the Mafia lies between me and Porkins. Porkins dives in with some heavy analysis. Porkins' conclusion is that Italiano VD is partnered with Mick / Word. So from this point, it looks like Porkins is going to be the choice for today, and if it's not Porkins, it has to be Italiano. Shelly agrees with Porkins, votes for Italiano to put pressure on him. Italiano posts a large defense to Porkins' case. It is very long. Day 2 was a much shorter day. I declared intent to hammer on Porkins because Porkins was 1 vote away from being eliminated. I voted Porkins. That was the final vote. Porkins was eliminated. Porkins was a member of the town, so we were wrong on Porkins. Genius Gamer, as predicted, was killed during the night. He was a town mason. So now we have 5 people left. Shelly, Mini, Italiano, me, and T-Bone. I'm going to do a short recap of who is still alive. So Shelly, we were thinking about voting her on day 1. We switched to Word at the last minute. We were correct that Word was the Scum. Minnie is someone new. She's kind of flown under the radar. She hasn't really done anything eventful in the game, which makes her kind of sus, but also maybe innocent. Italiano, we all thought was very friendly and towny during the first day, but on the second day, when we were voting on Porkins, basically Porkins said that Italiano is probably the other Scum. And since Porkins wasn't Scum, it's looking pretty bad for Italiano right here. There's me. I look really good because I swung the hammer onto Word, who ended up being Scum. So I look very, very innocent at this point. And finally, there's T-Bone, who also looks very, very innocent. And T-Bone is the only semi-experienced player still alive. The 4 of us are noobs, and then we're hanging out with T-Bone, who's been on the site for like 10 years. So Italiano says, I promised Porkins that I would lead my own wagon, so he votes for himself. And then Shelly votes for Italiano too. So now Italiano is 1 vote away from being eliminated on day 3. And then I ask for Italiano to unvote. T-Bone asks for Italiano to unvote. Then Italiano votes for Shelly. But T-Bone says that he thinks it's Red or Mini Megabyte. Italiano unvotes Shelly. We're still trying to figure out who the proper elimination for today is, but it's looking like it might be Mini Megabyte. Shelly starts a wagon on Mini Megabyte, who again has been largely silent. We have very little information on her at all. T-Bone says intent to hammer on Mini. I gave Minnie her second vote. which means that Minnie is one vote away from elimination. Uh, then Minnie voted Shelly C, Italiano voted Shelly C. So now Shelly C and Minnie are both one vote away from elimination. So it's going to come down to T-Bone's vote to decide who is going to be eliminated. T-Bone votes Minnie. Minnie Megabytes eliminated, and her role was a vanilla town. So Minnie was a member of the town, and then during the night, I was killed, and I was also a member of the town. So that leaves our final conclusion. We've got 3 people left: Shelly, Italiano, and T-Bone. So one of them is the final member of the Mafia, and 2 of them are town. And because it's a majority vote, the town has to vote perfectly. If the town puts a vote on another member of the town, then the Mafia member can swoop in, vote for the member of the town, and just win the game. So usually you don't want to vote early in this situation because that's very suspicious. And right away, Italiano jumps in and says, vote T-Bone. And then Shelly comes in and totally sheeps what Italiano says and votes T-Bone, and that's the game. The game's over. T-Bone's gone. So the question is, was Shelly a member of the Mafia? The answer is yes. T-Bone was a member of the town. Shelly won. So that on day 1, when we were voting between Shelly and Word, we were actually voting between both members of the Mafia. We had found them both. So when I swapped the vote last minute from Shelly to Word, that was not necessarily the right decision. I think if we had voted off Shelly that day, we would have easily found out Word in one of the following days. So that ended up being a bad play in retrospect. Shelly got us really good. I did not see it coming. She did a really good job. Overall, it was a really fun first game. It took like a month to play, and I learned a lot. At the beginning, I was playing very rotely and mechanically, and at the end, I felt more fluid and towny. And it was a really fun experience. And after that, I played in a few more games on this website. So it's forum.mafiascum.net. If you want to play in a game, I suggest jumping in the newbie queue and playing with some other new players and getting introduced to the website.